At his mother's funeral, the billionaire discovers his ex-wife and twins, a revelation that took everyone by surprise. They say funerals bring closure and unity in times of grief, but for Michael Harrington, his mother's funeral opened the door to a life-changing revelation. Under the soft patter of rain against a backdrop of muted clouds and a multitude of dark umbrellas, he spotted a familiar figure from his past. His ex-wife Rebecca, whom he hadn't encountered in years. Michael's heart raced as he caught sight of two tiny figures grasping her skirt, the unmistakable presence of twins. The unsettling awareness hit him with the force of a thunderclap. He discovered children he had never been informed of. In the hushed cemetery, where raindrops mingled with sorrow, a remarkable tale started to emerge. The day of Cecilia Harrington's funeral was shrouded in gloom, mirroring the suddenness of her passing. Heavy clouds loomed overhead, casting a shadow that obscured any trace of sunlight. Whispers of the wind danced through the time-worn oaks encircling the venerable family chapel in upstate New York. The Harrington estate sprawled across acres, featuring undulating lawns and carefully trimmed hedges that had once rendered the family's name a hallmark of affluence and enduring elegance. Michael Harrington, now 35, stood beneath a broad black umbrella beside the twisted roots of a willow tree close to the chapel's entrance. Clad in a meticulously tailored black suit, he exuded the unmistakable aura of a self-assured millionaire entrepreneur, a testament to the journey he had undertaken over the last 10 years. His broad shoulders and tall frame captured the attention of all nearby, yet his usually steadfast eyes now held a trace of sadness and a whisper of remorse. Michael gazed at the coffin, adorned with white lilies, the blooms his mother cherished most. He was drained, not merely from the nights spent crying alone, but from the heavy weight of remorse for not dedicating more moments to her. Business transactions in Tokyo, strategic discussions in London, charitable events in Los Angeles. His existence revolved around flights and luxurious accommodations, all in pursuit of growing the Harrington legacy. However, the most recent occasion he genuinely engaged in conversation with his mother was 3 months prior, and even that encounter had been a hurried phone call. At this point, the moment had passed. The quiet stillness within the chapel was pierced solely by the grave melodies of the organ. Then arrived the heartfelt tribute from her cherished friend Evelyn Carter, a name recognized in the city's esteemed aristocratic circles. Evelyn's voice quivered as she remembered Cecilia's kind-hearted nature and her unwavering devotion to her sole child. Michael felt uncertain about whether his mother had completely endorsed all his choices, yet he was certain of her fierce love for him. The essence of that love lingered in every nook of the Harrington estate, particularly in the nursery above, where she had shared tales of knights and kings, sowing the seeds of ambition that blossomed into an unyielding determination. The casket of his mother descended into the earth. Family acquaintances, socialites, and a diverse array of local dignitaries exchanged courteous nods and expressions of sympathy. Dark gowns and somber suits merged with the bleak atmosphere, creating a vivid tableau of sorrow. Out of nowhere, a woman's silhouette emerged in the periphery of his sight. Her hair retained that rich chestnut hue that Michael recalled from 10 years ago. Her posture was rigid, an attempt to blend into the background. Yet the moment she sensed the gaze upon her, the defensive tilt of her chin betrayed her intentions. It was indeed Rebecca. Her presence struck him with a wave of mixed emotions: surprise, confusion, and a hint of bitterness for the unresolved feelings that their sudden divorce had left in its wake. Since the day they finalized the paperwork, he had neither seen nor spoken to Rebecca. Michael's mother had always been critical of Rebecca. Cecilia had been quite harsh, to say the least. She once expressed to Michael that Rebecca didn't fit the Harrington mold, sparking numerous disputes between them. Yet, at his mother's funeral, what brought Rebecca here? What could possibly motivate her to appear after all these years? Michael felt a tightness in his throat as he took a step closer to her. Then he observed something that caused his heart to seize. 2 young ones stood next to Rebecca. They appeared to be around 7 or 8 years old, a boy and a girl, their hair a hue slightly lighter than hers. Yet the boy's hazel eyes hit Michael with a jolt of recognition, like a flash of lightning. In that astonishing moment, it appeared as though they were his eyes. He drew closer, with every step weighing down on him more than the one before. The wet grass yielded beneath his gleaming shoes. Rebecca felt a surge of tension, caught in a moment of indecision between quietly retreating and firmly holding her position. She held the children's hands tightly, a shield against the world. "Rebecca," Michael murmured, his voice scarcely a breath. "What brings you here?" She gazed up at him with wide, uncertain brown eyes. The children beside her grasped her skirt, appearing fearful of the imposing stranger. Rebecca's lips parted, yet silence lingered in the air at first. After a brief, awkward silence, she finally spoke. "Michael, I'm truly sorry for your loss. I understand the significance your mother held in your life." His thoughts whirled in a chaotic tempest. He recalled the moment their paths first crossed, the day they ran away together in a whirlwind of fervor, and the heart-wrenching day they said goodbye. A multitude of words, a wealth of memories left unexamined. And now there were these young ones, two of a kind. The thought that he could be gazing upon his own child made Michael's heart race within his chest. The boy looked up at him, his face bright with curiosity. The girl clung to her mother, partially concealed by the drapes of Rebecca's black coat. Michael inhaled deeply, struggling to steady the quiver in his voice. "Rebecca, are these what you were looking for?" Rebecca nodded, her eyes betraying a glimmer of shame and a hint of desperation. "I had the urge to share this with you countless times. However, complications arose." "Complications," he repeated, sensing his reality sway precariously. She gazed down at the children and beckoned them nearer. "Michael, allow me to introduce you to Christopher and Cecilia." The utterance of his mother's name affected the little girl profoundly, almost breaking him. He experienced a sensation of dizziness, teetering on the edge of lightheadedness. The sheer power of the moment was staggering. He arrived to lay his mother to rest, only to discover a whole existence that had remained concealed from him. They found themselves within the chapel, once the majority of the mourners had quietly dispersed. The twin siblings, Christopher and Cecilia, dashed outside to seize the final petals drifting from a rose tree by the cemetery, under the watchful eye of an elderly family friend who had kindly agreed to keep an eye on them for a short while. Rebecca and Michael stood in a serene pew. The remnants of footsteps and hushed prayers faded into silence. A stillness enveloped the chapel, as soft light streamed through the stained glass windows, scattering vibrant patterns across the gleaming floors. A subtle aroma of incense hung in the air, a delicate farewell to the ceremony that had just unfolded. Rebecca was the first to shatter the stillness. Apologies escaped her lips, her hands instinctively gliding over her arms as though a sudden chill had enveloped her. "I understand that the term may hold little significance at this moment, but I truly am. It was never my intention to bring you this sort of hurt." Michael examined her features with great attention. The years had treated her well. Her cheekbones were more pronounced, and her eyes retained a glimmer of quiet intelligence. Yet, there lingered a muted sadness that hadn't existed before. "A letter would have been enough," Michael remarked, his words tinged with surprise. "Just one phone call, that's all I ask, Rebecca. Why didn't you inform me that I had kids?" She inhaled deeply, her eyes drifting to the altar adorned with white lilies, a tribute to Cecilia Harrington's cherished preference. "Your mother stepped in," she finally spoke up. "After the divorce, I made several attempts to connect with you. I reached out, but each time your mother blocked my efforts. She mentioned that you preferred to distance yourself from me and the child I was expecting." Fury and incredulity twisted within Michael like a serpent. "Are you implying that my mother was aware of them? That she withheld it from me?" Rebecca gave a slight nod. "I have a feeling she cared for you deeply in her own unique manner, and she believed I wasn't the right fit for you. She proposed a sum of money for me to simply vanish, relocate to a different state, begin anew, and sever all ties with you forever." A myriad of thoughts erupted in Michael's mind. His mother had consistently exhibited a protective nature, teetering on the edge of control. In his youth, he looked up to the way she kept the family united following his father's passing. In adulthood, he perceived her guidance as constraining. Yet, The idea that she had crafted such a scheme tore through old scars and forged fresh ones along the way. He remembered a moment when, right after the divorce, his mother appeared surprisingly at ease. She had urged him to concentrate on reconstructing his existence. He immersed himself in the family enterprise, journeying across borders, cultivating fresh partnerships, propelled by sorrow and aspiration. He had never received a letter, a phone call, or any indication of a pregnancy, much less that of twins. "What held you back from standing your ground?" Michael remarked, his tone tinged with resentment. "I would have stood by you without a doubt." Rebecca's eyes shimmered with a blend of melancholy and triumph. "Your mother can be quite formidable, you know. In my youth, I found myself isolated and filled with fear. She warned that she would remove the baby from my care if I approached you once more. She asserted that she had exceptional attorneys who could categorize me as an unfit mother. I lacked the resources and backing to stand against her. I truly thought for some time that perhaps you didn't desire me or our child." Michael rested against the pew, grappling with his breath. He contemplated the legacy, the property, the affluent existence that had always surrounded him. His mother had always insisted he was the chosen Harrington heir, fated to uphold their legacy. Her protectiveness had been intense, perhaps too intense, as he was beginning to realize. He ran his fingers through his hair. "So you've been nurturing them by yourself all this time?" Rebecca's eyes shimmered with unfallen tears. "I've received support from friends, individuals who genuinely cared. I chose the name Cecilia for our daughter because, in spite of all that has happened, I wanted to ensure that your mother's strength remains a part of our children's legacy." A tumult of clashing feelings almost rendered him immobile. Frustration directed at his mother, compassion for Rebecca, remorse for the lost years without acknowledging his children. Questions surged through his mind like a tumultuous river as the twins pondered their father. Were they bitter towards him for his absence? Could he mend this damage now after all this time? Just then, the chapel's heavy door creaked open, revealing little Cecilia and Christopher alongside the family friend. The children lingered at the doorway, acutely aware of the weight of the discussion unfolding among the adults. The longtime companion softly urged them onward, and they proceeded with care. Michael straightened his posture. He offered a slight, hesitant smile to the children. "Hey," he said with a hint of uncertainty, wondering if it was typical to introduce himself to his own children as if they were unfamiliar faces. "I'm Michael." Christopher scrutinized him, a curious spark dancing in his hazel eyes. "Are you a friend of my mother?" Rebecca bit her lip, on the verge of tears. "He's your father," she murmured softly. The two children shared a look, their faces reflecting a mix of intrigue and unease. Michael battled the constriction in his chest and moved a step nearer. "Apologies for the delay in our meeting," he said, his voice trembling. "I have so much to share with you." As the children approached, a sense of bewilderment hung in the air, yet neither of them took a step back. In that instant, Michael understood something deeply significant. Regardless of the anger boiling within him due to his mother's betrayal, these young souls depended on him. Though his mother's funeral was steeped in sorrow, it also unveiled an unforeseen blessing, a remarkable opportunity to embrace fatherhood. 2 days later, Jonathan Pierce, the lawyer for the Harrington family, gathered everyone for the official reading of Cecilia Harrington's will. The scene unfolded in the estate's formal library, a refined space adorned with time-worn volumes and illuminated by an ornate chandelier that cast a warm, golden glow throughout the room. Typically, these readings were just a routine procedure, but in light of the peculiar occurrences at the funeral and the recent disclosures, Michael felt a heightened sense of tension. Michael lingered by the expansive windows, gazing at the meticulously kept gardens beyond. In a quiet corner, Rebecca sat in a chair, the twins positioned neatly on each side of her. They gazed in quiet awe at the soaring ceilings and carefully curated shelves filled with timeless novels from centuries past. Despite the peculiar nature of the situation, Michael was adamant that Rebecca and the children remain on the estate until the reading concluded. A part of him longed for their presence. He craved moments with his children, moments to reconstruct the years that had slipped away. Another aspect was concerned about the potential revelations that could be concealed within his mother's last directives. Jonathan cleared his throat and settled into a chair behind a grand mahogany desk. He sifted through a pile of documents with a calm precision. His composed presence was widely recognized among the elite social circles. A diminutive man in his late 50s, with a touch of gray in his hair, Jonathan had been managing Harrington's legal affairs for many years. His close relationship with Cecilia left Michael questioning where his true loyalties lay. "Thank you all for being here," Jonathan started, fiddling with his reading glasses. "We come together to pay tribute to the final wishes and legacy of Miss S. Cecilia Harrington." Michael took a deep breath, sensing the palpable tension that filled the space. The children could feel an odd tension in the air, their gazes darting between Jonathan and the towering shelves of law books that loomed behind him. Jonathan perused the typical legal language, the termination of specific trusts, the charitable donations to the nearby hospital and art museum, and the stipulation for employee bonuses. Michael was not taken aback by any of it. His mother was renowned for her generous spirit and careful organization. At last, Jonathan reached the pivotal moment, the details concerning the Harrington estate and the shares of the family business. He paused to confirm the page before moving forward. Miss S. Harrington leaves the bulk of her estate, which encompasses the Harrington mansion, to her son, Michael Harrington, provided he complies with specific conditions that will be outlined soon. Michael tensed up. What are the terms? He had somewhat anticipated an occurrence like this. His mother reveled in dominance. He tightened his fists, preparing himself for the ultimatum she had left in her wake. "Before I outline the conditions," Jonathan interjected thoughtfully, "there is another issue to address." He lifted his eyes from the documents, his attention momentarily shifting to the twins. Miss S. Harrington had crafted an addendum upon uncovering the existence of Christopher and Cecilia Harrington. Rebecca's jaw fell in astonishment. Michael's heart raced, and he gulped nervously. Did she have knowledge of their existence? He inquired, even though he had a strong feeling about what the response would be. Jonathan nodded with a grave expression. Indeed, she added a further clause, stating that should the children be proven to be Michael's biological offspring, they are entitled to inherit a considerable share of her personal assets, held in trust, until they turn 21. Rebecca emitted a soft gasp. The children, oblivious to the seriousness of the situation, gazed around with curiosity, their attention drifting from the adult conversation. Michael experienced an unusual blend of relief and resentment. On one hand, it validated that despite pushing Rebecca away, his mother had taken steps to ensure the children's well-being. On the other hand, it was infuriating to consider that she had engineered their separation while still keeping them in her thoughts for an inheritance. It seemed to encapsulate his mother's paradoxical essence, both domineering and yet fiercely protective in her uniquely flawed manner. Jonathan pressed on. Now, let's delve into the stipulations surrounding Michael's inheritance of the mansion and the controlling shares in Harrington Industries. Miss S. Harrington asserts, and I quote, "Michael must exhibit a stable family life within 1 year of my passing. Should he neglect this responsibility, or fail to choose a fitting partner capable of aiding him in upholding the Harrington legacy, the controlling shares will return to a family trust managed by the board of directors. The estate will be transferred to the Harrington Foundation and utilized for philanthropic gatherings." Michael's jaw fell open in disbelief. He noticed the color drain from Rebecca's face. The attorney's voice resonated throughout the grand library. 1 year. A consistent family environment? Is it necessary to find an appropriate spouse? His mother continued to influence his decisions even from the afterlife. "It's absurd," Michael grumbled, running a hand through his hair. "I am an adult male. I have managed Harrington Industries for 10 years. The notion that I must marry to validate some antiquated concept of family stability is quite offensive." Jonathan nodded in understanding. "I see where you're coming from, Michael. Nonetheless, the document is very clear. To maintain complete control, it is essential to meet those requirements." A profound stillness ensued. Michael's eyes darted to Rebecca, who fixated on the gleaming floor, grappling with her own disbelief. He cast a quick look at the twins, who were engaged in hushed conversation, their secret sibling language flowing effortlessly between them, unaware of the weight of their grandmother's last condition. His mother had always been committed to upholding a dignified image during family dinners, philanthropic events, and meticulously planned appearances. Perhaps she had envisioned this situation would encourage him to seek harmony with a partner. She considered it deserving. The question lingered. Had she, in her heart, always meant for it to be Rebecca? Or was this merely another effort to mold his fate? Feeling trapped, Michael let out a strained breath. I require some time to reflect. At this moment, the children and Rebecca have the option to remain here if they desire. A plan needs to be devised. Rebecca lifted her gaze, her eyes mirroring a tempest of feelings. Relief, fear, and an elusive something more. Michael found it difficult to articulate. "Thank you for that," she murmured gently. Jonathan rose, collecting the scattered papers. "I will allow you both the opportunity to reflect on this. The official documentation will be forwarded shortly. Keep in mind that you have 1 year from today's date to either affirm your compliance with these stipulations or relinquish the controlling shares." Michael gazed intently at the gleaming surface of the table. The Harrington Empire, crafted through the ages, now stood at a pivotal juncture. With one decisive action, Cecilia Harrington had woven her son's personal life into the very fabric of his business legacy. The question that consumed Michael's thoughts was whether her actions stemmed solely from a place of maternal concern, or was it yet another scheme to exert control over him even in death? He longed to pose the question, yet the opportunity to face her vanished with her passing. What lingered were the echoes of treachery, sorrow, and a last directive from a mother whose influence continued to loom large over his existence. In the days that followed, the Harrington mansion resembled a blend of opulent luxury and a tumultuous emotional arena. Rebecca and the twins found themselves in a generous suite located in the East Wing, rooms that had once been set aside for esteemed guests in years gone by. Soft carpets and detailed tapestries adorned each corridor, quiet observers of the heritage of countless Harringtons who had traversed these halls. The mansion was a thrilling labyrinth for the children. Christopher and Cecilia wandered through the hallways, their curiosity piqued by the presence of a hired caretaker. They were captivated by the secret corners, concealed staircases, and the antique portraits of their serious ancestors that adorned the walls. They laughed with delight upon finding the old music room, complete with its grand piano, and when they came across an attic brimming with dusty trunks and long-forgotten treasures. Their enthusiasm provided a vivid contrast to the underlying adult tensions that lingered just below the surface. Michael dedicated a significant portion of his time to the estate's private office. Piles of documents towered over the rich mahogany desk, corporate contracts, legal papers, and a whirlwind of communications from the Harrington Industries Board. Rumors circulated that the will reading had unveiled unexpected twists. The board members sought clarity, urging Michael to articulate his intentions. Yet, how could he validate anything when his reality had just tilted into chaos? He faced fresh duties as a father, a seemingly insurmountable challenge for his legacy, and a tangled past with Rebecca that stung like an unhealed scar each time their paths crossed. They attempted to engage in conversation. One evening, once the twins had settled into their slumber, Michael and Rebecca stepped out onto the balcony, gazing over the gardens bathed in moonlight. In the stillness of the night, fireflies flickered like tiny stars, while a gentle breeze wafted the sweet scent of summer jasmine through the air. It was meant to be a moment filled with romance, or at the very least, tranquility, yet an uncomfortable tension lingered in the air between them. "Thank you for letting us stay here," Rebecca said, her arms crossed and her gaze locked on the tree line. "We might have chosen a hotel, yet the kids truly enjoy the freedom of the open space." Michael rested against the intricately designed railing. "They ought to. This is a piece of their legacy." He hesitated, as if unsure. "How are they managing? This is quite overwhelming." She swept aside a loose strand of hair. "Children adjust more quickly than we realize. They have a greater interest in you than in the mansion itself. They've been inquiring about your food preferences, the sports you enjoy watching, and whether you read bedtime stories. A sudden wave of remorse washed over him. He aspired to embody the father they had always envisioned, yet he found himself tragically unready. Throughout his career, he had navigated complex corporate crises and brokered multimillion-dollar agreements. Yet the seemingly simple task of tucking his children in at night loomed large before him. He paused for a moment, then took a deep breath to steady himself. If it's all right with you, I'd love to begin spending time with them. I may be uncertain about the process, yet I want them to be aware of my presence. Rebecca's expression became gentler. All they require, Michael, is simply your readiness. They lingered in quietude for a heartbeat, the space separating them still tangible. After a brief pause, she averted her gaze, her voice softening. What about us? There's quite a bit to delve into. Michael let out a heavy sigh, burdened by the countless years filled with unasked questions. I'm uncertain, Rebecca. There's a vast expanse of confusion surrounding the events that unfolded. For the moment, let's concentrate on the children, and we'll navigate the rest as it unfolds. She nodded, her eyes glistening as she fought back tears. Understood. Even with that tentative agreement in place, maneuvering through the same house remained a daunting task. Familiar disputes resurfaced in nuanced forms, the contrasts in their backgrounds, the accusations surrounding the separation, the looming presence of Cecilia Harrington. Michael discovered he was engaging in more debates with phantoms than with Rebecca. The realization that his mother had orchestrated the circumstances only deepened the confusion about what was genuine in their relationship. In the background, the year-long clock continued its relentless ticking. Michael's phone vibrated repeatedly with calls from the Harrington board. A number of board members insisted on convening at the estate. They sought confirmation that his personal turmoil wouldn't disrupt the stability of the company. Michael understood that they perceived him merely as a symbol, a manifestation of Harrington authority. Should he not succeed in obtaining ownership, the shares would become available, potentially leading the company into chaos. One morning, John Smith, a longtime acquaintance and a small stakeholder in the firm, paid a visit. John stood alone on the board, openly aligning himself with Michael, a diminutive figure with piercing blue eyes and a reassuring aura. He came to engage in a discussion about strategy. In the drawing room of the estate, they convened, surrounded by the grandeur of old oil paintings that adorned the walls. This is a delicate matter, John began, taking a sip of the coffee that the butler had served. The board is concerned about circulating rumors. A clear plan is essential, particularly in relation to your personal circumstances. The circumstances surrounding Cecilia are well known. Michael massaged his temples. I understand, but this is my life, not merely a strategic decision. John offered a compassionate nod. Absolutely, but you're well aware of the ruthless nature of the corporate landscape. If the shares return to the trust, other board members might attempt to take control and remove you from daily operations. Michael clenched his jaw tightly. Am I really expected to marry someone just to fulfill a stipulation in a will? John paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. I won't sugarcoat it. These are the realities we face. And indeed, discussions are happening. There's talk that you could be rekindling things with your ex-wife, especially since her appearance with twins coincided so perfectly with your inheritance of the estate. Michael's eyebrows arched in surprise. Are they suggesting that this was orchestrated? John gave a nonchalant shrug. Narratives flourish in the upper echelons of society. Rebecca's unexpected return at this particular moment certainly piques curiosity. Scandals have a way of captivating people's attention, Michael. It's essential to manage the perception. Anger roiled within Michael's core. Rebecca's arrival was far from calculated. It was evident that it had taken a significant amount of bravery for her to be present. And yet the whispers were swirling with fervor. He let out a deep breath, reclining into the chair. What if, in a purely hypothetical sense, I were to think about reconciling with Rebecca? John lifted an eyebrow in curiosity. By marrying her, you would fulfill the stipulation of the will. Is that really what you desire? Michael gazed at the intricate ceiling molding, its fleur-de-lis patterns evoking memories of his mother's fondness for the elaborate. He confessed quietly, "I have no idea. I hardly know my children. Rebecca and I have yet to come to terms with our history. It seems like a perverse kind of manipulation, even if it originates from the depths of my mother's resting place." John exhaled deeply. "Take your time, but be mindful not to linger excessively. The board's patience has its limits." Once he departed, Michael remained in the drawing room, lost in thought. He envisioned his mother, elegant and powerful, perched in the high-backed armchair, directing all from the shadows. She had always envisioned him embracing a life that reflected the values of the Harrington legacy. She had always disapproved of a hasty elopement in Vegas with Rebecca from all those years past. Now, in a twist of fate, her ultimate condition could compel him to return to that same relationship or face the possibility of losing all he had strived to uphold. Yet, was that truly what Cecilia Harrington had envisioned from the very beginning? A fresh onslaught of inquiries overwhelmed him, trapping him in a state of doubt and confusion. One thing stood out unmistakably. He faced a year filled with emotional turmoil, a journey to discover fatherhood, and the weighty task of making a life-altering choice about what lay ahead. The tension had reached an unprecedented level. In the days that ensued, Michael felt an irresistible urge to explore the hidden aspects of his late mother's life. If she had crafted such intricate schemes in life and even from beyond the grave, what other secrets might she have concealed? As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the mansion, the twins slumbered peacefully in their suite, and Rebecca busied herself with work calls from her hometown. It was then that Michael decided to explore the attic, a place filled with secrets and memories waiting to be uncovered. The caretaker spoke of a collection of ancient trunks and chests that were part of his maternal lineage. A persistent feeling within him urged that he could uncover insights into Cecilia's motivations in that place. The attic unfolded as a shadowy maze filled with vintage furnishings, cobweb-covered portraits, and shattered chandeliers draped in ghostly linens. Gossamer threads draped from the rafters, creating an ethereal atmosphere. Michael coughed, brushing aside the motes that floated in the beams of light streaming through a solitary round window. A surge of longing washed over him. He recalled the thrill of sneaking up here as a child, sifting through old crates in pursuit of hidden treasures. At last, he stumbled upon a sizable wooden trunk, adorned with the crest. The lock, though rusted, remained operational. With a bit of determination and a crowbar in hand, the trunk finally gave way. Within lay letters, journals, and legal documents that appeared to be from a bygone era. He carefully extracted a bundle of letters bound together with a ribbon. Their edges bore the marks of time, the ink softened and dimmed. The uppermost letter was directed to his mother, stamped from a location in Massachusetts. Intrigued, Michael perused the letter. It came from Ann Richardson, a longtime acquaintance of Cecilia's, someone he faintly remembered encountering at a dinner gathering ages ago. The letter revealed a hidden truth about a family member who had been estranged due to a scandal. It was the quintessential drama of old wealth, the sort that cloaked the Harrington name in an air of intrigue. He placed the letter down and flipped through additional pages, ultimately coming across a journal adorned with a rich purple velvet cover. The flowing script was unmistakably that of his mother. The entries began during her 20s, coinciding with her meeting Michael's father. Amidst the notes on social events, family gatherings, and small personal observations, one passage caught his attention and held him captive as he flipped through the pages. It was written 6 months prior to his marriage to Rebecca. Michael is determined to marry that girl. Observing the way he gazes at her, I can't help but acknowledge his feelings, yet I must prevent him from jeopardizing his future. He fails to recognize the repercussions. If only I could shield him from this pain before it consumes him. A cool shiver raced down Michael's spine. He flipped the page to delve deeper into the story. I have made preparations to guarantee that this partnership will not endure. Rebecca lacks experience. She has no idea how far I can reach. I refuse to allow Michael to dismantle all that his father and I have created with a rushed union. His heart pounded fiercely within him, a surge of anger igniting. It wasn't merely that his mother disapproved. She had taken deliberate steps to undermine his marriage. The subsequent entries became increasingly detailed, referencing financial incentives, potential legal actions, and a calculated effort to depict Rebecca as an unsuitable partner. Michael struggled to catch his breath. He perused an entry marked 1 year post-wedding. Achievement. They have parted ways. Before long, I will conclude this by presenting Rebecca with any amount she desires. As long as she disappears from Michael's life, he forcefully closed the journal, tears of betrayal stinging at the edges of his eyes. Fury, sorrow, bewilderment, all swirled inside him. He had always been aware of his mother's controlling nature, but witnessing it laid bare in such a stark manner was utterly heartbreaking. She had methodically unraveled the fabric of his marriage, convinced that he would remain oblivious to the existence of the twins. He raised a quivering hand to his brow, attempting to regain his composure. Then he spotted something tucked away in a corner of the trunk, a sealed envelope bearing his name, written in his mother's distinctive handwriting. With a deep breath, he opened it. Within lay a solitary handwritten letter. My dear Michael, should you find yourself reading this, it means I am no longer here, and you have unearthed at least a portion of my actions. You have to understand that my actions were driven solely by love. I sensed that Rebecca was not prepared for this existence. I understood that the weight of the Harrington legacy would engulf her. Indeed, I stepped in, maybe a bit too forcefully. I have my share of regrets, but above all, I lament that you will come to despise me for it. I trust that someday you'll come to grasp it. The wealth, the title, this duty can feel like a heavy load. Only someone with great strength can stand by your side. Show me that you can discover that individual, or embody that individual independently. At that point, the Harrington Empire will be firmly established. I will always cherish you, Mother. The letter fell from his grasp, gliding down to rest on the neglected floor. His eyes brimmed with tears, a whirlwind of feelings. She asserted that her actions stemmed from love, yet the damage she caused was beyond words. Yet it was the concluding line that captured his focus. Show me that you can discover that individual or embody that role independently. It occurred to Michael that maybe his mother's stipulations in the will weren't solely aimed at compelling him to marry. Perhaps she hoped he would make his own choice, to challenge him, to discover if he could love passionately and defend those dear to him with unwavering determination. She had revealed, no matter how misdirected it might have been. He dabbed at his eyes and meticulously stowed away the journal and letters once more. His chest was burdened by the gravity of newfound understanding. Amidst the fury, a vein of understanding flowed within him. His mother was a complex figure, embodying both care and chaos, a woman whose obsession with the Harrington legacy led her to rationalize her controlling ways. With a steadying inhale, Michael made his way down the attic stairs. The moment to evade these realities had passed. He would need to confront Rebecca, the twins, and the board with sincerity, yet also with a fresh resolve. If the last lesson from his mother was meant to challenge his determination, he would rise to that challenge in his own way. In the weeks that followed, Michael made genuine efforts to reach out to Christopher and Cecilia. Though he lacked formal expertise in parenting, he tackled the challenge with the same commitment he had previously applied to high-stakes business negotiations. Each day, he dedicated a few hours from his schedule to be with them, guiding them through the estate's garden, cycling along the paved paths, or tossing a ball on the vast lawn. At first, the twins exhibited a sense of shyness. Cecilia, the more reserved of the pair, frequently sought refuge behind her mother or remained close to her brother. Christopher, in contrast, exhibited a fascinating audacity. He would pose a myriad of inquiries to Michael regarding his profession, the aircraft he boarded, and the reasons behind the vastness of the Harrington mansion. Gradually, that willingness to connect dissolved the initial wall, and both children started to embrace him. On a bright, sunny afternoon, Michael took it upon himself to show them the art of fishing in the estate's secluded pond. Equipped with fishing rods and a compact tackle box, they positioned themselves by the water's edge. A soft breeze danced across the pond's surface, while the willow trees swayed with a delicate grace. "This is so dull," Christopher complained after the first 10 minutes. Cecilia cast a weary glance at her brother, though she too appeared a bit unsettled. Michael smiled broadly. Allow it the opportunity to unfold. Angling demands a certain level of perseverance. With a deft flick of his wrist, he cast the line, memories of his father's patient lessons echoing in his mind as he stood by the familiar waters of the pond. It was a surreal experience to take his father's role, leading his own children. A wave of nostalgia washed over him, causing him to swallow hard, yet he managed to shake it off. From a short distance, Rebecca sat on a blanket beneath a tree, engrossed in her book while occasionally lifting her gaze to take in the scene around her. Ever since Michael stumbled upon his mother's journal, a delicate understanding had begun to blossom between them. They had yet to explore the shadowy corners of their history, yet they maintained a sense of civility, coming together to provide the twins with a semblance of normalcy. Time drifted gently by the pond. At last, Christopher couldn't contain his excitement and let out a joyful yelp as he reeled in a small fish, thrashing wildly at the end of his line. Cecilia erupted in laughter, springing to her feet as she enthusiastically cheered him on. Michael knelt beside them, assisting Christopher as he carefully unhooked the fish and released it back into the water. "That was incredible," Christopher exclaimed, his face lighting up with joy. Cecilia applauded with joy. Their smiles illuminated Michael's heart in a manner he had not foreseen. It was a delight so uncomplicated, yet it held immense significance. Eventually, they collected their belongings and made their way back to the mansion with a weary determination. The kids dashed forward, their joyous giggles resonating across the neatly trimmed grass. Rebecca matched her pace with Michael. She glanced at the children, then turned to Michael, her smile radiating warmth. "You have a gift," she said softly. "They adore you," he said with a casual shrug, a humble smile playing on his lips. "I'm attempting to compensate for the time I lost. There's an abundance I overlooked." Rebecca's smile dimmed a bit. "I long for a different outcome. I never intended to hide them from you. I hope you trust that," Michael replied, recalling the journal entries. He felt the anguish in her voice, as palpable as his own. "I trust you," he murmured, and they let it rest there. That evening, Michael discovered himself in the twins' bedroom, a softly hued space that had previously served as a guest room. The space was now filled with an array of scattered toys and children's books. The children eagerly urged him to share a bedtime tale with them. Christopher selected a narrative featuring a valiant knight on a quest to save his family from a fearsome dragon, whereas Cecilia decided on a fanciful tale of a princess journeying through enchanting realms. They reached an agreement to read one brief story each. As the lights faded, Michael's voice filled the room, skillfully adopting various accents for each character. The children erupted in laughter, captivated by their father's act. Rebecca lingered by the door, her gaze fixed on the unfolding scene, a hint of nostalgia playing across her features. Once the tales concluded, the twins nestled beneath the blankets. Christopher let out a yawn, his eyelids fluttering gently. Cecilia wearily rubbed her eyes, a hint of drowsiness lingering in her expression. Michael lowered himself and pressed his lips gently against their foreheads. It was a spontaneous act, an opportunity he had never encountered until now. "Good night," he murmured, his voice heavy with feeling. "Sleep well." As he exited the room, he caught sight of Rebecca brushing away a tear. She spun around abruptly, a hint of embarrassment flickering across her face, as if she had been discovered in a delicate state. Yet Michael grasped the essence. He experienced a familiar constriction in his chest, a peculiar blend of happiness at being included in their bedtime ritual, and profound sorrow for having missed the first 8 years of their existence. He withdrew to his study, where a tidy stack of business documents lay in wait. He attempted to concentrate on them, yet his mind drifted to the children, to the father he was evolving into, and to the father he might have been throughout the years. Had circumstances unfolded in another way, had his mother not intervened. Yet, dwelling on regrets won't alter the now. At this moment, he finally had an opportunity to progress. However, That opportunity was accompanied by the looming requirement that he must wed within a year to maintain authority over the Harrington empire. The longer he was with the twins, the more he realized that this was not merely a duty. It was about honoring them in the best way possible. Regardless of whether he ended up with Rebecca, his desire was to offer them a sense of security, to stand firm against the societal predators eager to dismantle the Harrington legacy. The soft glow of the desk lamp filled the study with a gentle light, its quiet hum the sole companion as he contemplated his next step. His mother's manipulations had, in a twisted manner, granted him a second opportunity, one to truly embrace fatherhood and, maybe, to become a genuine husband. Yet, could he truly open his heart to Rebecca once more, following all the betrayal and confusion they had endured? The burden of the choice bore heavily upon him. Yet as he envisioned the twins' radiant smiles, he understood that becoming a father was reshaping his view on all aspects of life. It had transcended his individual experience. It was about creating a life that encompassed these two cherished children who sought his guidance, security, and affection. He shut the folder of documents, switched off the desk lamp, and headed to his bedroom. Tomorrow presented yet another opportunity to mend fractured connections and take a step closer to shaping the future of the Harrington legacy, whatever it may hold. As the days unfolded within the Harrington mansion, a sense of tension lingered, while ominous clouds loomed over the corporate landscape. The Harrington Industries Board, growing more apprehensive about the company's future, called for a formal meeting to evaluate Michael's capacity to carry out his late mother's wishes. The meeting took place in the main conference room of Harrington Tower, a shining skyscraper in downtown Manhattan that represented the company's worldwide impact. Michael made his entrance in a sleek navy suit, with John Smith by his side. His mind, typically a fortress of tactics, was overwhelmed with personal concerns. He chose not to inform Rebecca about the meeting, aiming to spare her from a possible spectacle. He entered the boardroom, its rich mahogany panels gleaming, with a circular table at the center, encircled by individuals clad in sharp business attire. Expansive windows framed the breathtaking skyline of the city. At the head of the table sat Alastair Morton, a veteran executive and interim chairman, navigating a period of change. With silver hair and sharp features, Alastair was known for his unsentimental nature and cunning intellect. Michael settled into his chair, projecting an air of confidence through his stance. The murmurs faded away as Alastair prepared to speak, clearing his throat with purpose. Michael, we appreciate your presence with us. We have gathered to address the board's apprehensions regarding the upcoming leadership of Harrington Industries. In light of the peculiar conditions outlined in your late mother's will, Michael locked eyes with Alastair. I acknowledge your worries. I want to express my confidence to everyone present that I am completely ready to uphold my role as CEO. My personal life will not impact corporate operations. A woman named Genevieve Park, who leads the legal department, voiced her thoughts. The board appreciates your commitment, Michael, but we require some clarity. Miss S., according to Harrington's will, you are required to demonstrate a stable family life within a year, which may include the possibility of marriage. Do you intend to fulfill that requirement? If that's the case, the controlling shares will return to the Harrington Trust, necessitating a redistribution of power. Whispers circulated among the board members. Michael inhaled deeply. I am considering various possibilities. That's all I have to share at this moment. The details of my private life are not open for discussion in public. Alastair inclined his body, eager to engage. Nonetheless, the future of the company remains uncertain. Investors are on edge. It is essential that we maintain stability. Should the conditions of the will not be fulfilled, we face the potential threat of an aggressive acquisition by external investors who could purchase shares in the trust or collaborate with specific board members to seize control. Michael's jaw clenched. I understand the importance of the situation. The contents of my mother's will took me by surprise as well, but I assure you I will handle it before the year concludes. Alastair's lips formed a subtle smile. We truly hope that is the case. If you find yourself unable to comply, it may be wise to consider stepping down voluntarily to prevent a public confrontation. The Harrington brand is unlikely to endure a fierce legal battle. An intense surge of anger coursed through Michael. He perceived the hidden menace. I understand your concerns, Mr. Morton, but I am fully committed to maintaining my rightful position as CEO. The atmosphere in the room was charged. John Smith cleared his throat to ease the tension in the room. It might be wise to postpone this discussion for a few months, allowing Michael the opportunity to resolve issues and outline a clear way ahead. Alistair glanced at John, then gave a slight nod. We will gather again in 3 months. Michael, we look forward to receiving an update on your personal situation by that time. Avoiding chaos is beneficial for all. The gathering concluded with stiff handshakes and strained expressions. As Michael emerged into the corridor, John trailed behind, his expression marked by worry. They're circling like predators, John murmured softly. Alistair, in particular. He would relish the opportunity to witness your downfall. Michael let out a breath. I understand. For years, he has been watching the CEO position, anticipating that my mother would pass it on to him. John offered a comforting pat on Michael's shoulder. Stay composed and don't let them shake your confidence. You can do it. Yet Michael harbored doubts. Upon his return to the mansion that evening, he discovered Rebecca poised in the foyer, awaiting his arrival. She wore casual jeans and a simple blouse, yet her posture was stiff, and her expression revealed that she sensed something was wrong. How did your meeting go? She inquired. Michael offered a brief, restrained shrug, stretched thin. The board is seeking a definitive response regarding my commitment to meet my mother's requirement. Concerns are arising regarding the company's stability. Rebecca's eyes fell. I understand. She paused for a moment, then pressed on. We cannot escape the necessity of discussing it indefinitely. They transitioned to the drawing room, where Rebecca perched on a velvet sofa, her hands elegantly clasped in her lap. Michael stood still, moving back and forth by the fireplace. She granted me a year, he remarked, running his fingers through his hair. However, the board is seeking a response more urgently. There's pressure on me to tie the knot. Some might assume that I'll simply pop the question and wrap it all up perfectly. Rebecca's eyes danced with a blend of emotions. Hope, anxiety, perhaps even a hint of fear. What is it that you desire? Michael ceased his restless movements and turned his gaze toward her. I aspire to be a father to my children. I am in the process of acquiring knowledge on the subject. I aim to safeguard the heritage established by my father and grandfather. But do I really want to pursue this by imposing a marriage through a legal requirement? That seems off. And yet, if I fail to act, I might forfeit control of the company. Such a situation would impact countless individuals, numerous charitable initiatives, and the future of the twins. Rebecca scowled. I recognize the burden you carry. However, marriage is. This isn't just a business deal, Michael. It absolutely should not be. A harsh chuckle slipped from his lips. My mother nearly transformed it into one. Perhaps the true inquiry lies in whether we can restore what has been lost between us. If we are able, then perhaps it transcends mere determination. It might center around providing our children with a genuine sense of family. However, if we're doing this just to create an illusion, I refuse to participate. I am unable to do that. Rebecca inclined her head with a measured, thoughtful gesture. I seek something with depth and substance, not a mere facade. We shared a connection, filled with affection and intensity, but so much has transpired since then. We have transformed into different individuals now. We require some time to determine if we truly align in that manner. Michael settled into an armchair, massaging his temples. Time is precisely what they refuse to grant me. Silence enveloped the surroundings, dense and palpable, much like a heavy mist. Neither possessed an answer, and thus they remained in that uneasy silence, each absorbed in reflections of their intertwined history and the ambiguous road ahead. With each fleeting second, they edged nearer to a confrontation that would not only shape their bond, but also decide the destiny of a vast empire. As summer yielded to fall, the Harrington estate experienced a subtle metamorphosis, with ivy gracefully enveloping the mansion. Walls transformed into hues of russet and gold, while the expansive gardens embraced a soft, nostalgic charm. Within those walls, existence had found a gentle cadence. Michael deepened his connection with the twins, discovering the nuances of their unique characters. Christopher was captivated by tales of space exploration, whereas Cecilia dreamed of becoming an artist. Endlessly creating, the once lonely hallways now echoed with laughter as Rebecca discovered her own niche in the mansion's everyday rhythm. She took charge of the kitchen staff, making sure the twins received wholesome meals rather than the extravagant, unrealistic dishes favored by the chef for affluent patrons. She also contributed to philanthropic projects initiated by Cecilia Harrington, yet left incomplete a scholarship fund and a donation drive for a local children's hospital. As she collaborated with Michael, the strain between them started to dissipate, giving way to a newfound respect for one another's contributions. On a bright, refreshing afternoon, Michael and Rebecca brought the twins to a local orchard for a delightful apple-picking adventure. It was an unpretentious excursion, a stark contrast to the lavish affairs that typically filled his schedule. The sun filtering through the orchard, the winding paths, and the abundant apple trees created a vibrant setting for a new type of memory, one rooted in unity instead of separation. Cecilia was determined to ascend a small ladder in pursuit of the most vibrant apple she could discover. Determined to prove himself, Christopher attempted to scale a taller branch. Michael held him steady, chuckling as the boy teetered unsteadily. Rebecca captured images with her phone. For a fleeting instant, they appeared to be just another ordinary, joyful family. That evening, returning to the estate, the twins drifted off to sleep early, exhausted from the invigorating air and thrill of the day. As the evening settled into a serene hush, Michael guided Rebecca to an intimate lounge, seldom frequented, adorned with cozy armchairs and gentle illumination. A soft glow flickered from the hearth, the flames dancing gracefully in the quiet room. He offered her a steaming mug of hot cocoa, then settled into the chair opposite her. "I haven't expressed my gratitude for everything you've done, for your presence, and for allowing me the privilege of being a father to our children." He paused, a glimmer of warmth in his eyes, grateful for the opportunity to demonstrate that I am no longer the person I once was. Rebecca took a delicate sip of her cocoa, her gaze locking with his. "In those days of our youth, we were surrounded by countless voices guiding our every step. I only recently came to understand the extent of your mother's influence." Michael placed his mug on the table, inclining his body slightly forward. "I discovered my mother's journal. She penned her thoughts on meddling in our relationship, coercing you to keep your distance, and even hinting at potential legal repercussions. She persuaded me that you were not willing to fight for our marriage." Rebecca's eyes glistened with unshed tears, "and she persuaded me that you had abandoned both me and the baby. I felt utterly shattered. I sought to shield myself and the twins from further sorrow." Michael let out a deep sigh, fully aware that everything was carefully planned. "I apologize. I ought to have exerted more effort in uncovering the truth. I found myself deeply entangled in the corporate realm, harboring resentment over your departure. I never considered that perhaps she had pushed you away." She extended her hand towards him. "What has been completed is now in the past. However, we must determine our subsequent course of action. The board, the will, everything is steering us toward a path that feels somewhat unnatural. The inquiry at hand is whether our desire to go there stems from what is truly right for us, or if it is merely an effort to satisfy others." Michael's thumb gently caressed the back of her hand. Her touch radiated warmth, a blend of familiarity and novelty. "I wish to preserve the legacy my father created. However, what truly matters is that I want to preserve what we're creating together, the moments I've shared with you and the children. It has transformed me. If that's what you desire as well, I hope we can become a family again." She felt the warmth of tears welling at the corners of her eyes. "My love for you, Michael, has never wavered. Yet this time, love alone may fall short. It's essential that we establish a foundation of trust between us. We have the ability to navigate and heal from the wounds of our history." He nodded, his voice thick with feeling. "Let's approach this step by step. We have a whole year ahead of us, don't we?" Let's explore how we might connect the divide. If, by the end of that year, we find ourselves genuinely prepared to embrace partnership in every aspect, then perhaps that holds the key to all of this. Rebecca's lips formed a hesitant smile. That seems like a solid approach. The remainder of the evening was filled with discussions about the children's future, contemplating the potential for expanding the scholarship fund, and even deliberating over minor details such as the choice of wallpaper for the kids' rooms. Joy, sorrow, and authentic connection surged between them. In that instant, uncertainty loomed over them both, leaving them to wonder if they would ever find themselves walking down the aisle once more. Yet a glimmer of hope shone more intensely than it ever had. Their love story had faced a fracture, yet there lingered a glimmer of hope for restoration. Perhaps, in the end, the most fitting tribute to Cecilia Harrington's legacy lay in creating a family united by truth and sincere love, unencumbered by the darkness that had previously driven them apart. Thank you for accompanying me on this turbulent journey filled with love, hidden truths, and opportunities for redemption. Michael's mother imparted a vital lesson. True legacy is not defined by material wealth, but rather by the strength of our connections and the bravery to confront our deepest realities. From a funeral that revealed concealed offspring to a will that blended professional and personal realms, each turn brought Michael and Rebecca nearer to the realization that true strength lies in genuine affection and togetherness. If this tale captivated you and you wish to witness more intense drama, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support enables us to keep producing narratives that explore familial connections, emotional struggles, and journeys of redemption. Be sure to catch the upcoming captivating story. Become a part of our community today, and together, let's delve into stories that highlight the remarkable strength found in every human spirit.